Paranormal, UFOs, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell.
Well, hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
How is everything going in the great state of Missouri?
It's going pretty good. It's rainy.
Yeah, well, it doesn't feel it feels fall up here, and that we've had a little bit of cold spells up here in the North Woods, and the leaves are starting to fall. And obviously, we've got our pumpkins to celebrate or our jack-o'-lanterns to celebrate the spooky season. But it's hot tonight here. It feels like it's the middle of July. I'm up here in the loft of my cabin sweating. It's crazy.
It's toasty here too. So
yeah. Any spooky news for me at all?
No spooky news.
Huh.
No. We went to Missouri Town Fall Fest today, which was fun. It's a nice little pioneer adventure.
Oh, that's
walk
nice.
Down history. Yeah.
Is it an actual historical location, or is it something built for tourists? Or
it's just a land that they brought old homes from like 1850 that was in Missouri, and they kind of shipped them to this land, and people get to show up there and see what it's like, or would have been like back in 1850. So they're all dressed up in pioneer clothing and wagons, and and all the cooking and leather and all the fun stuff that they make there. So
that'd be fun. Is there any like rumors that those houses are haunted? If they're older houses, or is people investigate there at all or anything?
Crazy enough, there is activity in those homes.
There you go.
So it just came with it, I guess.
Huh. Do they do investigations there? Is it open to people to go in and check it out? Or?
I think they have one for Halloween, actually. So yeah.
You ever investigated there? Or?
Yes.
Well, there you go. There is a spooky story there. We won't go too far down the rabbit hole of your story, though. That's something we should definitely talk about sometime within this fantastic month. But speaking about paranormal investigations, that's a nice segue into tonight's guest. They're a husband and wife couple, and the creative force behind Robot Ninja Media. The husband, an ex-professional snowboarder, was a director of photography for several years on the hit paranormal show Ghost Hunters, and has an impressive CV in the world of documentary film and television. His wife, who is also a nurse, has a passionate interest in the paranormal, which was triggered by a profound paranormal experience she had working at a nursing home regarding the unexpected loss of her father. She was cast on the TV show Ghost Hunters Academy, where she met, fell in love, and married the cameraman, who is now her husband. They've been married for 9 years. Together, they produced a 2020 paranormal documentary feature film, The House in Between. And we actually had John Bullard, one of the main subjects of that documentary, one of the main investigators. We've had him on twice now. He's a great guest, and that's a fantastic film. If anybody hasn't seen The House in Between, I definitely encourage them to check it out. I also encourage people to check out the film I'm about to mention now, which is tonight's guest's most recent film, 2021's chilling The Sleepless Unrest, which documented the couple's 2-week stay in and the investigation of the real-life Conjuring house. So without further ado, welcome Kendall and Vera Whelpton. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you guys?
Awesome. We're doing good.
Yeah.
Good.
Other than there's a heat wave in the North Woods, but I guess I shouldn't complain because I'll be thigh deep in snow in a couple of months.
Yes, probably.
Ooh, I love snow. That's awesome.
In the north, the part where I am is kind of central North Wisconsin, so it's a nice creepy part of the world.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lots of weird. You guys need to make a documentary up here.
Yeah.
I've never been.
Oh, it's nice in Wisconsin.
Yeah. That's
Very nice.
Oh, I think
we'll just keep going. They'll come back.
Okay, that's good. No, I mean up here is weird. What are some haunted locations here that we've talked about looking at, you and I ever? I know there's some down south. Now in Milwaukee, there's Shaker's Pub or something, which is a famous.
Hey.
I don't know what happened.
We were talking about us having to go to Wisconsin, so I guess we have to go now.
Yeah, you do. I know in Milwaukee there's a number of quite famous buildings. I think there's a bar or pub called Shaker's Pub.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know they do ghost tours down there, and there's an awful lot of activity. But I'm sure there's all kinds of weirdness to investigate. I mean, I'm more cognizant of the cryptids and UFO sightings up here. The ghost part of the show is more Jen's, I suppose, interest. So yeah, I could recommend cryptid things, but I can't recommend direct ghost things. So if you ever want to come up here, hit Jen up. I'm sure she can recommend a place or two.
Definitely, awesome. Yes.
Are we frozen?
It kind of looks like it.
I'm very sorry. Let's see what's going on here.
We'll just wait. Do you want me to go ahead and like do their trailer?
Yeah, why don't we play the trailer for the Sleepless Unrest?
Okay,
That's a great idea.
Let me kind of get it moving here.
We'll have to think of some locations to recommend for them up here. I think Shad Lewis who's another guest of ours, has written a number of books on haunted locations in Wisconsin. I know Linda Godfrey has. I actually have Linda's book on haunted locations, I think, on the bookshelf over there. I don't know if there's sound there. Oh, by the way, Jen, make sure you hit the sound button.
I did. Can you hear it?
We have been warned. Something bad is still here.
You should mic your microphone.
At nighttime, it can be dark and sinister. Did you pack for 2 weeks?
Yes, sir.
Let's just film everything. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's staying at a place for more than one night or 2 nights. We're living with this. Holy. Careful what you ask for. Whoa. They will get your attention. Who's there?
That crawl space in the roof was particularly creepy.
Oh, yeah.
There were lots of creepy moments in that documentary, though.
Okay. They are rebooting their system.
That's fine. We can
shut up. You never know. It could just be the spirits that follow.
It could. Well, there you go. But we don't want to do too many spoilers for the movie. No. But maybe we can ask them if they were followed back by.
Oh yeah,
by anything. Sure.
Hey Ed.
Hey babies. It's what you would normally say instead of mates. Hey Ed, it's great to. Oh, I received your book. I just got it the other day from the post office. Ed. Ed's new book. What's the title of that book again, Jen? I'm terrible with titles.
Be Still.
Be Still and No. I remember.
Yeah.
I should have brought it up tonight so I could have flashed the screen with it. I'm looking forward to getting into that, Ed. Ed is a regular guest. He was speaking of the Conjuring house, which was the Warrens investigated.
True.
Right? So the Warrens investigated, Ed and Lorraine Warren investigated the Conjuring house. And Ed Schultz, who's like a 4-time guest on our show now, he was an exorcist for Ed and Lorraine.
Hi, Jenna.
Warren. Hello, Jenna. Thank you for listening, watching. We appreciate it. So yeah, Ed was. I don't think he did work the Conjuring case, but he certainly worked other cases with the Warrens. And his new book, Be Still and Know, just dropped, I think, like last week on Amazon. So people should go and I did remember Ed. I apologize for forgetting from him, but Be Still and Know, he's right. But we were talking about? We were talking about things following you home. You had things follow you home from investigations, baby?
I'm sure I have. but I don't.
But have you experienced something after you've been somewhere and thought it followed you back?
Sure, but I don't interact with it.
Can you give me some examples?
I don't know, just weird things happen. You know me. I mean, stuff happens to me all the time. I just ignore it. I mean, it's got to be something pretty legit. So, okay, here we go.
We're back.
Hey.
Oh my gosh. That was just strange and odd. The whole laptop just froze up here, so I apologize.
Jen suggested maybe it was something that's followed you back from one of your investigations. So.
She's like, nope.
I don't want to do any spoilers for the movie, which we'll get into in a minute, actually. But they've dropped out again. There you go. So now you have to regale the audience with one of your experiences, Jen.
One of my experiences.
Yeah, of something haunted taking you back, or following you back, rather.
With me, it's just feeling it, really. I'm trying to think, like, wait a minute, here we go. Is he working on it?
It just keeps saying there's an error with the website.
Yeah, it just
goes, oh gosh.
Oh.
We can blame StreamYard then.
There it is. Is it like the browser, maybe?
Oh, did you recommend using Google Chrome?
No, I didn't. But
yeah, you better.
They may already know that.
They wouldn't know that. You got to tell every guest. But you would think, they probably don't use StreamYard before. That's something to tell them though, as soon as they come back on, to use, or message them now on Facebook in case if they're following, because I know you're messaging them. If you can hear this, Vera and Kendall, it could be that you're not using Google Chrome. I know when I've tried to use other browsers, and Google Chrome is not my favorite browser to use, but with StreamYard, it's the only browser that actually holds up. So
we'll have to make sure that we go over the hour, since we haven't really.
We'll definitely go over the hour as long as they
had
can.
Time to talk.
But just send them a message to say use Google Chrome. I'm trying, since you don't want to give a story, I'm trying to think if I can give any stories.
Well, I mean, okay, they are, so.
Okay, well, if they were using Google Chrome, I can't recommend anything else. Eek. That was the extent of my tech savviness, which isn't very deep or strong, but use the Chrome for the StreamYard.
Well, I mean, I could always talk about I get, what do you call them? Hitchhikers, or just people.
Yeah, that's what I wanted you to talk about
that
before.
Randomly show up. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us a story about that?
Sorry, I can't think and text at the same time.
Well, that's why I was going to tell a story, and you said, no, I'm going to tell one. So I was going to let you take care of it and entertain.
Well, I mean, I think I still have the clip of it. And now that I've had it, I kind of wonder if, well, wait a minute, the K2 was going off at the same time, so I can't really say that. But my flashlight was working, answering questions yes or no, and I was asking them. And
tell the audience.
I have footage of it.
Tell the audience how the flashlight thing works, because when you first told me, I didn't understand what you meant until I got you to describe the actual details of it.
Right. Well, there's a little conspiracy about that too, because a lot of investigators don't believe it's legit. Because I mean, you literally have to have it loose enough to where they can, turn it. But if you have it too loose, you can get like a false positive. I mean, they can just turn it on its own kind of thing. So that's what you do.
So you have a flashlight loose, so it is easy for the spirits to turn it on or off.
Yes,
and then you ask them questions. So, for example, what kind of question would you ask them if you thought there was a spirit in your house?
Well, usually a typical one is somebody else here besides me. You're kind of like, I feel you.
Gotcha.
And mostly it's like, where are you from? Because obviously you're not from my house, because I don't. So I eventually got into a bunch of questions, and from what I gathered from the yes or no was somebody that I live near a hospital. So it was someone that had just popped in. I mean, I don't know how they know to contact people or talk to people. But we gathered it was a child and was in a car accident and passed away. I forget what year. So something I should have researched a while back, though. I was a child. I don't know if they ran over a young child.
Gosh.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that a young child will go straight to heaven and wouldn't be trawling through neighborhoods in Missouri.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it wasn't really a child.
There you go.
Hey,
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on. I switched it over from Wi-Fi to the landline, so we'll see. See what's going. Maybe, but it's weird because it keeps crashing my computer. The whole thing just shuts down. I don't know.
That is
it's crazy. We got the gremlins in there.
Yeah, something doesn't want you to talk tonight.
Well, we just showed your trailer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Good.
Very cool.
Done. What happened?
Yes. So before we go into
hear
all
me?
the fun questions, yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
But oh my goodness, the gremlins really are
Gosh.
playing around with the Whelpton's
Somebody
system.
doesn't want us to talk to them.
No, maybe not. Who
I don't
knows?
know. Darn it. I got a bunch of questions.
I know you do. I know you're a big
I
fan
love
of
that
their work.
documentary.
Yeah, you were messaging me or Facebooking while you were watching it and saying how much you enjoyed it.
Yeah. I was the same way with The House in Between.
Yeah, they're both top films.
Yeah.
Very, very atmospheric.
Okay.
Just give me one of yours.
Test.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh,
Okay, let's
like Chrome just cut out there.
Oh no.
Oh,
Well, these things.
We'll
these
take a
things
photo.
happen.
There we go. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry.
That's
Oh,
good.
no,
Listen,
it's fine.
it's not your fault if there's some kind of system malfunction.
A
Gosh.
gremlin.
Exactly.
We haven't done it.
Uh-oh.
Oh my goodness.
It's freezing.
Yeah,
Like,
there's
it gives them a
really-
few, like a minute, and then it.
And then
I
it
don't
pops.
know what that is. Gosh darn.
Well, I'm sorry to our audience that it clearly isn't the Whelpton's fault, though. Sometimes, as wonderful as the technology is that we're all used to, it can be loaded with all kinds of flaws and problems as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I
I
can tell
don't know
any
what else it could be
any quick spooky stories while we're
spooky stories.
waiting. I know when you were here one time, you said you thought there was another presence standing in the room.
Mhm. When I
That creeps
see-
that creeps me out a little bit when I'm here by myself.
I'm sorry.
You're not really sorry.
Well, I think it's there. You don't know it. So
Yeah. Well, it's like the H.P. Lovecraft story From Beyond, or the Stuart Gordon adaptation of that into a film where there's things floating around us all the time, and perhaps we just can't see them. I certainly believe in the reality of a spiritual world, or the reality of alternative, things which bump into our existence sometimes. And even when I put my more skeptical hat on, who knows what we're projecting and what happens with our fortthorns, tulpas, and the like.
Yeah.
All of these things.
Your mental status can manifest its own little entity too if it wants. So
Well, that's the thing. That's where I think it becomes difficult sometimes to try to. And when we were talking to Connor last week, actually, we talked about that a little bit. We were talking about how do you know that some of these things, when you're using things like the Estes method, that you're not actually just somehow psychically communicating with the other members of your team, and you're picking up things from them, or it's difficult. It's difficult to tell, because all of this is something nobody can be an expert in. I mean, you can be an expert to the extent that you can have more knowledge about the data out there, like you might know about more cases, so you can try to make an educated guess on what something might or might not be. But when it comes to theorizing, I think we're probably being conceited if we say we know what the answer.
Nobody knows.
That's
There's
true.
not what do you call it? Not professional. Of course, they're probably professional investigators or whatever, but they're not. They don't actually know the answers. So
Right.
that's why they're investigators.
Yeah, there's nothing you can put forward to prove your theory. Even if you were right, how would you prove it? Like, say, I always joke with you, half joke, that this is all demonic. Like it's all of it might be, from the dark side, right? Certainly spiritual phenomenon. But even if I'm right, how do I prove that to somebody who doesn't share my belief system?
Like you said, belief is the enemy. So
yes, John Keel said it, but I stole it. It's true.
That's right. Yes, Keel said it.
It becomes problematic, and it especially becomes problematic. Well, I was going to say, I shouldn't say that. It's problematic for anybody. It's as problematic for a scientist as it is for a Bigfoot believer or a UFO believer, because all of these people, as I guess the progenitor of John Keel in many ways, Charles Fort, said that science is a mutilated octopus, and it's this idea that when its tentacles reach too far, they cut them off because you're not prepared to look at things outside of your realm of comfort or your scientific paradigm or your belief system or whatever you talk about. And there were certainly some questions that I had for, hopefully we'll still be able to talk to the Whelptons about it regarding.
Yeah, maybe he's just rebooting the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, it's one of those things. It isn't
he's updating.
Yeah, it isn't like old, analog technology. It's digital technology just seems to be loaded with gremlins dancing around, perhaps on motherboards and circuits and down Ethernets. Aren't you meant to have they talk about Ethernets? Aren't we meant to have astral bodies and ethereal bodies? Isn't there some distinction between the two?
Yeah, I've heard something like that.
Yeah, so maybe, who knows, when we took
the Ghost of the Machine. That was even something that Ed had put up here, but I didn't.
Oh, you should put it up. Ed's filled with wisdom.
Yeah, he's got here. Okay. We were talking, so he's got this one.
Yeah, exactly, Ed.
And then he's got this one. And we got Poltergeist.
There you go.
And then, hey, I am out. He's like,
Thanks, Ken. Yeah, just check back because the Whelptons will probably come back, and we'll go as long as they can stick around. We'll still go.
They said 2 minutes, so he's updating.
Yeah, but I mean, as long as they can stick around, we can still do a full length show with them.
We'll definitely do a full hour. I mean,
yeah, as long as
we've got lots of questions.
I know it's later where they are as well because they're out east. So.
Midnight. Here's Joe.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for listening, man. It's always good to know you're listening / watching.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. I have storms.
Oh, I can hear it. I thought you were about to say, excuse me, my belly's grumbling. I didn't eat dinner tonight.
It's been that loud before.
Yeah, that's pretty loud. Good grief.
I didn't think we were getting any more, so I was hoping it was over with. Because before we even came on, I had to go out there and grab I put my little graveyard tombs out there. Of course, they're styrofoam.
For Halloween?
Halloween, yeah. Already decorated. So I made just to go out there and grab them. I was afraid the wind was just going to throw them across the neighborhood, but we got them.
We had
a big gust of wind.
Yeah, I haven't decorated. I've carved one jack-o'-lantern, which is sitting behind me, but I mean, that'll only be good for another day or two, and I'll have to throw it in my compost pit.
I had to cut a couple of my pumpkins because one of them was really soft. This morning, Josie poked a hole through it. She's like, I don't know why it's like that. Of course, squash bugs, and then I don't know what else is going on.
Oh, gosh.
But then when I came home after that, I noticed that my vines were turning brown. And it's rained a lot, so I don't know if too much rain or what. So,
eek.
Fun stuff.
My pumpkin patch is, I mean, I had, like you did, powdery mildew. I'm sure this is fascinating for people.
I know.
It's in the spirit of Halloween. I did cut off all the leaves. No, listen. This is the first I've grown pumpkins inadvertently before because something's come out of the compost. A pumpkin vine. But this is the first year I've had a pumpkin patch, and I mean, it was for the spooky season. It's because my daughter loves
something to do with your kids. Yeah.
Charlie Brown, the Halloween special, one of the greatest cartoons.
Best one ever.
Well, I'm partial to the Christmas
one. Great pumpkin.
But the pumpkin one's definitely the second greatest. And yeah, she
What's
wanted
the first
one,
the Christmas one?
Yeah, the Christmas one's the greatest cartoon ever made. But the second, probably the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, is probably the second greatest cartoon ever made. And my daughter loves peanuts. I raised her that way, and she wanted a pumpkin patch like Linus has, so hence we grew it.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hi. Oh man.
It's all right. Thank you for trying so much. Anyway,
Yeah.
It's all good.
I appreciate. Now, I was saying, if this does work now, and we go ahead. We're happy to still do an hour if you're happy to still do an hour. So
Awesome.
when I do the audio podcast, I'll just cut out all of the me and Jen blathering for the first 20 minutes. As funny as it is, but yeah. So we can still treat it as an hour interview. Although I think we've lost them again. Maybe we'll still do this show tonight, but maybe if it keeps failing, we'll have to get them back on another time to give them a fair actual interview space. Anyway, so Linus and the Great Pumpkin. So that's why I grew the pumpkin patch for my daughter this year. And it's it's fascinating to have one in your front yard because it does have all those, at least for me as an Australian, it has all those American quintessential Halloween connotations to have big pumpkins out there. And to think of the Great Pumpkin visiting perhaps on Halloween. Nice. Poor little Linus. But yeah. I do love that the smallest town, because I'm in the middle of the woods, as most regular listeners will know, but the little town closest to me, it's less than 1,000 people. It's a tiny little town. It's probably about a 7 to 10 minute drive from where I live. On Halloween, it feels like the 1970s still there. I'm assuming I had 1970s Halloweens in Australia, but it was only me and my friends probably in all of Sydney who trick-or-treated because I was obsessed with Halloween. It wasn't celebrated at all in Australia back then. People would be shocked when, you go to their door, they go, what? Trick-or-treat? What are you talking about? Trick-or-treat? That's a bloody American thing. Get out of here, kids. I'm not even kidding you.
Really?
It wasn't. Now people do celebrate it in Australia. Well, they're in such a rabid COVID lockdown. I'm pretty sure there'll be zero celebrations this year. There'll be no trick-or-treating.
But it was still a holiday, a pagan holiday, though. I mean, did they still do that?
I assume pagan groups somewhere might have, but they certainly weren't part of mainstream Australian culture in the 70s into the early 80s. But anyway, since then, it's become a bigger deal. And, again, when Australia was still open and wasn't under tyrannical lockdown, people would have Halloween parties and go to bars on the closest Saturday night dressed in costumes and things. So the last probably 5 or 10 years I was in Australia, it became a big thing. Anyway, as I was saying, I imagine, speaking about the smallest town near me, which is nicer to talk about than Australia's current dreadful situation, is that on Halloween night, it genuinely feels like what I think the 70s was. It isn't overblown. There isn't much traffic. It's the decorations don't seem as big as I've seen in cities and bigger suburbs. They seem smaller and a little more lower key, like perhaps the 70s would have been. And it just has an old-fashioned feel. Like when you walk the streets of that town, you can imagine it's, Haddonfield in the famous John Carpenter Halloween movie. It just feels old-fashioned. So I love taking my daughter trick-or-treating to our closest town. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's fun. I know Josie's excited. Wyatt's not so much since he's going to be 14. So,
what are your kids wearing? Do you know yet?
Josie's currently deciding.
Yeah.
Wyatt thinks he's too big.
Well, Wyatt probably is too big to trick or treat. At that stage, it was starting to become a little bigger at that stage when I was like, mid-teens. And so I would take my little brother trick or treating, but I would always have to hide in the bushes out the front, So it was like a big kid there. And I remember one time people going, "Who's that down there behind those bushes?" Just his brother, So, I think White's probably, although I do see even here sometimes when I'm out trick-or-treating with my 5-year-old, this will be, she was 4 last Halloween, but 5 this Halloween, that there are kids who are probably on the cusp of, you're probably too old to be trick-or-treating now, leave it for the little ones. But I guess it's a free-for-all for the candy grabs. So
true.
So who knows? What's the favorite Halloween costume you've ever worn?
My Moulin Rouge sateen outfit. Yes.
That would have been my favorite costume I've ever worn as well, maybe if I'd seen it.
Yeah, that was a good one. My friend was a costume, not really a designer, but she worked in the theater department at the college. So
the difference
she made
between
the whole corset and get up.
The difference between you and Nicole Kidman. She's like 5 times hotter than Nicole Kidman.
Oh, stop it.
Well, it's true. I mean, I'm just being objective. So that would have been a cool costume, though.
Yeah.
I think probably my favorite because I continued my Halloween obsessed tradition when I was in Australia. So I just continued to throw big parties into my college years. And one year, the house me and my brother had, our college house, we decorated it like crazy. And this is before it was really big in Australia. It was just getting big. We went to a lot of trouble. It was like a haunted house, and we had bands play there. We charged a door fee for catering. Like, it was like a major event. Police came and shut us down because we were making so much noise. We were in the suburbs. But anyway, by the by, I had a fantastic Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre costume that year, and I had a real chainsaw. I think I borrowed it from my stepfather, Alan. Thank you, who's probably listening. We took the blade off, but at the end of the haunted house, so guests would come walk through our house to get to the big backyard area where we had the stage and the bands, and when they walked out the back, there'd be me. There was this pool of blood with body parts in it, and there'd be me starting the chainsaw and getting all frustrated like Leatherface because I couldn't start it. And most people thought it was funny, but in fairness, there were some girls there who were genuinely, I think, pretty terrified by the crazed Leatherface grunting in his, human skin mask, and wasn't real human skin. I think it was the Dan Post Leatherface mask that I bought. But yeah, that costume was an awesome costume. My goodness. And the funny thing is, since I've been in America, I have worn 2 costumes since I've been in America. Well, one year before I was living here, shortly before, I was at a Halloween party in LA, and I had a monkey suit, which I thought was hilarious. Like in This Bad Touch, the Bloodhound Gang song, those monkey suits.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. So that was my costume that year. And I had this fantastic full skeleton suit, which I've still got in the basement. I don't even know if it fit me anymore because I probably put on a couple pounds since I first came here. But I used to love the Happy Days Halloween episode. See, as a kid in Australia, I always loved American culture. So we didn't have Halloween, but what taught me about Halloween was probably Charlie Brown and Happy Days and shows like that. But I think it was it Potsy, I think, had in that one of the early Halloween specials, had a Halloween suit, like a black suit with the Halloween bones on it. I thought it was about the coolest thing. And as a kid, I think I had some other costume, and my mother might have turned it around and painted with some kind of I don't know, like whitewash. She painted a bones collection on there. Hey guys.
Oh, we can't hear audio.
Can't hear.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
We can't hear any audio. I don't know.
Can you hear us or?
Here.
we can't hear you. Yeah, we can't hear audio.
Oh no, he's like, I don't know. What's going on?
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, we can't hear you. I don't know. Is your thing on mute? Maybe. Is it? Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Because we can't hear you.
They're gonna come back on.
Okay, fantastic.
But it stayed longer though. It looked like it did.
It did stay longer. The Potsy thing in Halloween. I think it was Potsy had the skeleton suit. I thought it was the coolest thing. So I've got a skeleton suit here. I probably need to dust off and wear again at some stage. But yeah, the spooky season, Halloween. I just actually shot a video about Halloween that you saw, which I haven't shared yet.
Mm-hmm.
Which I'm pretty excited about, one way or the other. But we won't talk about that too much yet because it's kind of hush hush.
I might need some sage.
There you go. Possibly.
Who knows? Computers.
Yeah. And it is our first official Halloween show, so it is the time of the year when the she and the fair folk, the other crowd, the good neighbors, are perhaps getting ready to be more active.
Yes.
Because as I talk about in that video, which I'm not going to talk about anymore, but in the Gaelic countries in Scotland, my part of the world, Ireland, I mean, where my family originally comes from, on Halloween we tend to think about it was a time when devils or demons or spirits of the dead prowled the land, and perhaps it was. Mm-hmm. But or perhaps the thing that was most prominent or most prominently feared or gave people most reason to be concerned during All Hallows Eve and Samhain was the fair folk, the fairies.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people used to be worried about because they were more active.
Well,
and in fact, and sometimes it's difficult to delineate actually between the spirits of the dead and it's very complicated, but and the she and everything else. But my point is, we were talking about gremlins before, perhaps interfering with the technology.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe one or more of us have offended the good neighbors.
Okay, let's try again.
Hi.
There you go.
I hope this works. Okay, let's see here. We're gonna send you a video of what our screen looked like. It was like glitching out like all I don't know. This is just interesting.
Oh, wow.
It's just interesting. We haven't had this before, so I apologize.
That's all right.
But
it gave me time to rant about Halloween, which is always fun.
You can't hear?
No,
here you go.
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, there we go.
You can both hear us?
Yeah.
I'll send you the video.
What do you guys have planned for Halloween before we go into more serious aspects of the chat?
Yeah, well,
our kids love to dress up, of course.
Yeah.
And there's a huge thing in the neighborhood. Everybody goes out, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty basic, but a lot of fun with the kids.
Oh, the audio just muted for some reason.
Yeah, your audio just muted. I'm not sure if you bumped it or.
Yeah, it says muted on there. Oh, and then it froze.
And we
no.
lost them again.
She sent me the video.
Well, are you going to wear a? Well, if you can feed it in, you can play it for the audience. But while you do that, maybe I'll just do one of my world famous rant monologues about something.
Could. Go on Facebook.
I could probably talk for the next hour. But you mean you could probably share that?
Yeah,
I don't know if they want us to share it or not. I'm not sure.
But
what are you wearing this year? Have you picked out a costume? Because I know often you actually wear a costume when you go trick or treating with your kids.
My mom found a Renaissance dress. So the last 3 years, I just wear it and some wig, and then I just kind of do the downtown trick or treats with the kids. But now they're getting bigger. I don't know. Josie said something about being a witch, so I might dress up as a witch with her.
I had a message from.
This is so weird.
I can hear him.
You can hear them, but you can't see them.
Oh my gosh. This is crazy. This is I don't know what to say.
Hang on a second. No, that's I don't think you care if I share that. Because it's actually kind of funny.
Well, maybe they wanted you to share. It might be where they sent it through.
I don't know.
I'm not
sure. It's got to prove that they are having problems for sure, because you can really see it.
You have a supportive mother and stepfather. I don't know.
Moving to the office computer.
I can hear it. I'm not.
Say, like, this is crazy. What's happening?
Yeah.
This is really weird. I'm gonna cut this. Okay, I'm gonna go back to look. StreamYard's doing that too. Okay, here.
Yeah.
I wonder if something wasn't interfering with the stream tonight.
Yeah, it's not bad. I don't think it's bad.
Who knows? Anyway, you know that you have a supportive mother and stepfather when you get a Facebook message mid-show who my parents are watching and probably go, poor Dean, he's struggling with something to say. And she said, Dean, have you told your audience before about what the handyman told you? I don't know if I have. We had a psychic handyman when I was a child, and it's not that my father wasn't handy. This is before my mother remarried, and I think my father was still there, but he was always busy. He was busy with a number of businesses, and he was involved in the Navy Reserve at a rather high level. He was a lieutenant commander, I believe, in the reserve. So he wasn't there often to do a lot of the handyman work, even though he would have been capable of it, my late father. But so we had a handyman who did a lot of stuff, and he was also a psychic or a sensitive. And he told me when I was little, my mother was there and I was there, that there was somebody buried under our house. Which isn't what you want to hear when you're like, I don't know.
Not really.
8 years old or something, I probably would have been. And then I remember and my mother mentioned this as well, there were these weird human looking faces in the bathroom tiles in our bathroom, like something had, kind of
human
emerged.
faces.
Yeah, it looked like these haunted, scary faces in the tiles. And whether it was, our predilection to see order and chaos, what is it called? The phenomenon where you see faces. What is it?
You're talking about pareidolia?
Yeah,
but
pareidolia.
That's
pareidolia.
Yeah.
So there were what looked like faces, a number of faces in the bathroom tiles. And as a child, after hearing that story, I always used to think that's the spirit of buried beneath the house.
Mm-hmm.
I used to hear things in that house as well. I don't have a lot of psychic experiences. I have a few, but when I was little, I used to hear things in that house, walking around that shouldn't have been there, moving around when nobody else was at home.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Well,
Maybe there was
you
something.
experienced some things.
Yeah.
Here, let me.
Oh, you've loaded it up to share it?
Yeah. Let's see if it is. It's actually quite interesting. I don't know. Can we not hear it though? Oh, well, you know what? That would be good if I hit my volume button.
Yeah, don't forget to mute your microphone as well, because for some reason it always leaks through your speakers.
Yeah, but it doesn't want to do it either. But here you can at least see it. Oh, there I can kind of hear.
This is crazy. This is I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
What's happening?
Oh my goodness! I can see what they were filming now. It's crazy. Goodness gracious! Goodness
Definitely
gracious!
big glitch.
Okay.
And it's an Apple too. It's a Mac Pro. That's a good piece of equipment there.
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. Hi. Oh, it still says you're muted.
Is there a mute button you can push on there?
It shows on that little.
There should be a mute button below.
On the stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
can hear now. We just shared your video that you sent through.
Oh my god!
I was watching. That's so
This is
weird.
crazy.
If it doesn't hear, that's it.
Yeah,
I'm going to bed.
I know it. It's crazy.
No, if you drop out again, we can definitely just have you on at another time. Thank you so much for trying again and again to connect with us, though. We appreciate it.
It does keep wanting to turn the audio off for some reason, though.
Yeah.
2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
I can hear you now.
It's on everything's through the computer here, so I apologize, but
there's a gremlin pressing your mute button again and again.
It's fine now.
I don't know. This is weird.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, that's weird that we just did that. I swear that was like a whole deja vu for me. That's odd.
We don't hear you guys. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
no.
Oh, yeah, we can hear you.
Here, try that. There you go.
Can you both hear us now?
Okay.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes. We can hear you.
Definitely. Do you guys often get
so far away?
I know.
Oh no.
Do you guys often get like these kind of problems when you do interviews? I'm wondering.
Never.
I'm like the technician, and I'm pretty on it.
Over there?
No, I know
I
you've got to
shoot everything before we go on.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
That was
why I'm in
just
shock. Because it's like, what's happening? Well,
That's what I thought. Maybe you were always something was interfering with you always, and they were like
Yeah.
literally haunted by the show gremlins. Anyway, we should, since it seems to be rolling now, which is great.
Yeah.
We should get into talking a little bit about the sleeping unrest. But I think you had a few questions before we rolled into the film, Jen, that you wanted to ask.
Oh, I mean, like before we get into all the good stuff, I was just kind of curious about, did you already have like paranormal activity in your life before you got into the whole investigation or joined Ghost Hunters as well? You both were part of that.
we have had a ton of experiences. I mean, growing up and then later on as a young adult, and oh my gosh, so many. I mean, that's why I started getting into it, really, because of the strange things that happened to me that I couldn't explain. I think the same goes for you.
Yeah. When I was 18, I moved out of my house into the mountains in Colorado. I lived in an apartment at the time, and my roommate and I moved into a little room in this house apartment style. But we quickly found out that it wasn't a house. Actually, it was an old hospital, and we were renting a room in an old hospital that had been converted over. And the first night, immediately activity started happening in there.
But you said the rooms were left untouched, and it indeed still had like hospital old equipment.
Yeah, there was some equipment in like in some of the next door apartments that hadn't been lived in. Down in the basement, we found out there was this big table, and I found out later that it had gutters on the side. So I'm thinking it was a mortician's table that was left in there. That's where the laundry was, down in the basement. So yeah, that house was very active, and I got my first taste of living in a haunted house and dealing with a mischievous entity. And yeah, I had a major experience there that kind of changed things for me and got me to apply for the job for Ghost Hunters, and that's kind of why I ended up on Ghost Hunters.
Can you tell us about that major experience?
Yeah. So one night, my cousin and I, my cousin was visiting me from out of town from Illinois, and he was staying at my apartment, and we had decided to go next door into one of those rooms, one of those apartment areas that hadn't been touched and wasn't lived in. We had access to it, so we went right in there, started exploring upstairs, and saw some of the hospital beds, and kind of got the creeps and didn't feel right about being in somebody else's space. So we came back out down the stairs and back into my apartment. And that's when we just came into my apartment, that's when a picture just ripped off the wall and flew at us. And the picture was nailed to the wall with roofing nails. And it was forceful. It created a breeze. My cousin and I both looked at each other and said, you saw that? You saw that? Yeah. And then we honestly, we ran out of there. We were so scared.
Yeah, that is scary. I would have freaked out too.
But yeah, I mean, there was enough stuff that had happened in that place that kind of made me scratch my head and want to know more. So
like the TV used to turn on and off.
Oh, the TV turn on and off. Things would get thrown.
You will go snowboarding, come back, and all your doors will be open. All the lights will be on.
Yeah.
All the TVs will be on. And then you said, I love this story because he one day was so upset that you yelled at the ghost. And what do you say?
I said, hey, you're costing us money. Would you stop turning up the heat full blast and keeping the lights on when we go away for the weekend? And it was always messing with us. In the middle of the night, I just hear in the kitchen, I'd hear like forks being thrown in the sink real loud. Like it would be just like bam, just lots of noises.
Did you go and look?
No.
You never wanted to look.
You just wanted to ignore it.
So when I went to bed, we had this door like that I would have to pick up and like basically jam it shut. So it was like it didn't lock. The house was all like bowed. So the door we pick up and jam it shut. So you're kind of in for the night. You didn't want to like mess with the door in the middle of the night. And I will say one time I woke up in the morning and the door was wide open. And we were trying to figure out how the door had opened because it's so forcefully hard to get the door open. So, it seemed like the door opened for us. My first night there, I felt a cold breeze over my face. Like there was no windows in the room. It was just like a closed off room with no windows or air conditioning or anything.
Oh, the typical.
And this huge breeze and I was in a sleeping bag. I didn't even have a bed yet. And it had like this rip stop material, the sleeping bag did. And it made this loud, it was forceful breeze. It was just like right over my face. And that's when I was like, that was probably a ghost. Like, that was not anything that I know of for sure. So I actually had my head in my sleeping bag and I was just like sitting there, like freaking out for the whole night.
Good grief.
Right.
For me, it was more. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tell your story. I want to hear it.
No, ask the question. Did you ever what?
Well, I was just, if you ever figured out the history of it. I mean, you said it was a hospital. I mean, like, did the prior?
I did. Yeah. So the town is an old gold mining town. It's in Fairplay, Colorado, which is 10,000 feet in the mountains. And half the town burnt down. And part of that fire killed a lot of people. It hurt a lot of people. So a lot of people, they died in that hospital from the fire. They were brought to the hospital. And then a lot of gold mining accidents in the area. So a lot of people were in and out of that hospital quite a bit.
Didn't you say the town also is based on South Park?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's in South Park County, which that's where they got the idea of South Park. There's actually in the beginning of the cartoon, you see like Alma, which is the next town over, still in South Park County. It's Fairplay and Alma. And you see actual buildings from that town that those guys had drawn in. So yeah, I mean, I lived in the real version of South Park.
Oh wow!
And they even UFOs over there too. That was another thing that got me into the ghosts, like paranormal and UFO, otherworldly, because I worked at a really cool place. I worked at a snowboard factory, and there was a lot of guys there that they were locals, and there was some guys that lived in some old houses, and then they had lived there for a while, and we would get talking about my place, the old hospital, and some of the paranormal activity that happened there. But then we'd always end up going from that conversation to some of the UFO sightings that they had seen out there, and some of their experiences with lights in the sky and just some strange stuff.
Yeah,
there's a lot of strange stuff going on out there. It's cool.
That begs a question I was going to get to far further in the conversation, but since we're there, I'm going to hit it now. Do you see any commonality or similarities between these various paranormal manifestations, which we usually think of as separate, like UFOs and ghosts? Do you see that there's a space where they might coexist, or where it might be the same phenomenon causing both?
This could take your whole hour away.
Yeah, I
know. Yeah. I mean, we're starting to, the more we deep dive into our research on some of our projects that we've done and our new projects, we're starting to find that there's some interesting stuff happening outside of locations that are haunted. In our Sleepless Unrest film, you see you see some strange lights that we had documented outside the house. We're not ready to say, yes, there's like a correlation between UFOs and ghosts. I don't know if we can ever say that with the technology we have, but I just see that there's some strange things in a lot of reports in these hotspot areas. One thing I always do, and I started probably a few years back, maybe 5-6 years ago, when I was on Ghost Hunters, just for fun, because I'm really fascinated by UFO sightings and some of the technology and stuff. So I would check the MUFON sites to see if there's any kind of reports in these haunted areas, and I started seeing a pattern where yes, there are a lot of reports in some of these haunted location areas, and it's just kind of interesting. It's hard to tell if there is some kind of, maybe these things aren't ghosts, maybe they're multi-dimensional travelers. Like, I'm just not sure or ready to call it anything yet, because I don't think we know, but there is something interesting happening at these sites. For example, the Conjuring house. One of the claims and one of the reasons why I took that EMCCD camera out there is because some investigators saw lights shooting out of the house and into the tree line and lights around the house. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just odd. Like, that's not a normal claim that you kind of hear. Mm-hmm. So we took the EMCCD camera out there to try to document the lights coming in and out of the house and around the area. And that's kind of when we started hearing the noises from the backyard. We turned the camera on, and the rest was history in the film. But yeah, I mean, it's just interesting that we're getting lights, we're getting the house in between. Alice's story is very interesting. She had a very profound experience with some very technical lights, and not ghostly, but very profound technical lights, and I just find that very interesting. So.
And to get back to the Sleepless Unrest quickly, although I'm happy to talk about The House in Between because it's such a great film as well.
Yes, it is.
But when you were talking about the experiences you had in the woods, that throws another paranormal or Fortean phenomenon into the mix as well, of course, which is Bigfoot. And when you were, I was watching, Jen and I were watching it separately, but around the same time, and we were communicating back and forth a little. And Jen said, I know the first question you're going to want to ask them, and that's about the tree knocking. She didn't even say, but I knew what she meant. I'm like, yeah, the tree knocking about Sasquatch, right? Like, did that occur to you when you were there? You're like, this is standard supposed Bigfoot activity.
We had no idea. We've never been Bigfoot enthusiasts.
No,
really.
We never. We had no idea until
I used to kind of scoff at it a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, Bigfoot.
I didn't, but I just never really thought about it. I thought it was actually cool. Like if they really do discover, how cool would that be? But I never spent any time into what it
really
is
thinking
or
about
what
it,
is it. Like until after we heard somebody actually were like, oh, Bigfoot, and we're like, what? So we started doing research, and we were like, whoa,
blown away.
Yeah. We had no idea.
Now, was those tree knocks that we heard Bigfoot? I don't know. I didn't see anything, but I did hear foot stomps. I heard loud foot stomps kind of first off. And then, we actually,
they're fascinating.
I think that's where we kind of got, it was like, let's try it. Let's knock on the tree and try it.
You hear the raw audio with, the beats, and you really, really all the way up and you listen, it's like the vibration is just like, boom.
Oh, wow.
It's
We're
really,
like, what is that? And
really
it's so far away.
Yeah.
There's no way we could have done anything with the audio to bring it on the film. There was no way we talked with the sound. There's no way. I mean, I wouldn't mind sending that actually to a few people so they can actually just hear themselves because it's so amazing. It's like right there. We have no idea.
And the interesting thing too is that like you would hear it like right here, and then all of a sudden you'd hear it over here. It would travel. So like the knock I'm talking
or
about.
the
knock would you'd hear a knock from over here, and then you'd come from over here. So it's just, and then the EMCCD camera, we had that set up so it corroborated what we're kind of hearing. We're getting hits on that, and those are photon events. So that's that's interesting in itself. So you're having the audible sounds and interaction, and then you're having these light anomalies happening. It was just a really cool event to be a part of and capture and
I bet
experience. I mean,
there's an interesting alternative intellectual tradition amongst paranormal researchers. And there's people like John Keel, who probably first popularized it in the 60s going into the 70s. But Patrick Harper's book, Demonic Reality, talks about it specifically. And more recently, Joshua Kuchin's 2020 books, which he did with Timothy Renner, Where the Footprints End, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And we had Joshua on about a month ago or so. He makes the very interesting point in his Where the Footprints End books that a lot of Bigfoot phenomenon really is very similar to poltergeist or traditional ghostly phenomenon. Like people often, if they hear a wood knock, like if you were out there as a Sasquatch team, you wouldn't have for a second thought that was something paranormal. You would have said, it's a Squatches communicating with us. So a lot of these things can become bound to the belief system, I think, of the investigator looking at it. That's why it's great to hear you guys going, well, maybe we're open now to seeing that there's this UFO connection maybe, and there's this weird Bigfoot connection, because the more you look at the different phenomena, it seems to be, or the different phenomena, it seems that it might be, at least to me, a larger phenomenon that just manifests itself in these different ways. Rock throwing is another fascinating thing, as I'm sure you guys are aware of. There's a lot of poltergeist cases where rocks are thrown on roofs and things. Of course, if a Bigfoot investigator is out in the woods and a rock gets thrown at them, they straight away go, well, it's the Squatches throwing rocks at us. They don't have to see a Squatch. They just have to get the rock thrown at them. So there's those fascinating parallel aspects of all of these, which I'm that's what interests me most in the broader kind of field, I think.
I find it I'm right there with you. I find it very fascinating. I Vera and I have changed our like you said, we have changed our mentality towards paranormal these days. I mean, what if these places are hot spots or hotbeds or energies? You know, the land is some kind of energy that is allowing this kind of activity, is bringing as a catalyst. It's bringing these Bigfoot or UFO sightings, these lights, these interactive entities. You know, maybe it's just like a magnet for some of this stuff.
There's something in the woods there and the Conjuring house.
Yeah.
I wish we could have gone deeper and in the night, but it was quite terrifying. The sound.
Yeah, I bet.
And the feelings like that. Oh my goodness. It was so intense.
I mean, the house wore, I mean, we got wore out.
It was
like,
exhausting.
It really was like.
It all happened the very last night too.
Yeah.
And we all was thinking, was it waiting? Because he knew it was the last night. Could get us more.
Maybe.
Exhausted.
Maybe. Could have. Saving the best for last.
It was quite intense. And then when we went back to do the camping event.
Yeah, the camping event was interesting too. This is off the film, off the, you know, we didn't do any kind of media with this. We went back and just camped. We actually brought back the nail that we took. We brought that back. And we wanted it out of our house. We brought it out. We took it out of our house.
Yeah.
And so we went back and camped in the backyard, kind of right in the spot that we had those experiences. And totally.
Satori and Cody are hosting it in their museum, their haunted museum.
Oh, the nail.
The nail, yes.
The nail. They're hosting the nail.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Conjuring, like the Conjuring campout we did, we went back and did an investigation there and focused on the woods and such.
For a little bit, it was more towards the end. Everybody was very interested in the house. Nobody really was paying attention to outside, and other than their cars were out there, and they would just go back and forth to grab things from the car. But then at some point, everybody was kind of out, and we were just letting people just test the EMCCD camera and just kind of check it out, and nothing was happening. Nothing. And we were like, well, that's good because at least we can compare.
Yeah, the EMCCD, we weren't getting any hits like we had before. Yeah. So it was good. I mean, it'd be nice to have activity, but then, it's good that that the camera is working, that it's not, just
the same,
just an environmental element or something. So but then
I just felt, I don't know, I just felt like to look in one certain spot in the woods, and I don't know, I see this light with my physical eyes, just glowing light, and just went, and I'm just like, somebody's in the woods and he's trying to sleep. I was like, what's going on? And then I'm like, and I Jen hides it, and she's like, I see that, I don't know. But she didn't make a big deal because they're so used to it, everything going on in the house. So then I was like, Kendall, you gotta come watch this. I don't know. I don't know what this is. And he's looking, and he's like, let's go over there. Let's get the EMCD camera. We all going. We got as close as we can because it was just really.
It was at the edge of the woods. Like there's a trail. There's a lot of poison ivy around and like thick brush. So we made it to a spot where you couldn't possibly go any further. And it actually became kind of wet and kind of like a hole.
And there was a pond. So we couldn't even go. This light kept glowing. And we're thinking, is it an animal? Or is it
a cam? Is it a
and then we thought maybe
it was
a trail cam. Maybe, and then we asked Corey Hines, and is it a trail cam over there? It's being triggered by the motion, and he's like, no, there's nothing over there. And it was pitch black, you couldn't see anything. So then we get the flashlight, and I was like, can you hear me? Can you repeat this pattern? So I just go flash, and then sure enough, it goes flash. And then everybody got excited. So everybody gets their flashlights and then start trying to communicate. So that everybody's taking turns. And then everybody's going flash. And then it would go flash. Going back and forth. And we're just like,
it was fascinating. I'm like, okay, is this like the trail cams triggering? Is it like seeing the lights and then it's flat, like doing something? And like, let's move. So let's move and see. And literally we start moving, and we went like,
around it.
We went around probably like a good 40 to 50 feet off to the side, and the light actually tracked us and fall alongside of us. And it stayed a good probably 40 or 50 feet from us. But it was visible for a while. I don't know what it was.
And then it stopped.
Yeah, and then it was gone.
Oh, like it's gone. And one of the guys was like, "Are you still there? Can you hear us?" And then he did it again.
Yeah.
It seemed intelligent.
Yeah.
I just kept thinking, you can hear the frogs, you can hear it was alive, the whole
no lightning bugs. There was no lightning bugs out
but I
there.
keep thinking, is there some species of frogs that we don't know about? There's like glows in the dark. Maybe it's like mating season.
It was too profound. I mean, it was just too profound. I mean, it was just like it was there. It was so interesting.
Yeah.
But we looked in the morning to see if there was any trail cams or anything, and there was nothing out there. There was nothing there.
In fact, it was happening right above, like near the pond.
Yeah, we're almost in the pond. Like it was
almost in the pond.
Yeah.
But if it was any kind of gas or anything, wouldn't it just be one?
It wasn't
light?
gas. Gas would be like, it wouldn't be a defined circular light. But yeah, it was interesting. There's definitely some really neat stuff going on in the land in that area, and not only at that house, but the neighbor's house and some of the areas. There's
so much more.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, that triangle.
We were hoping to
Bridgewater Triangle. If you want to research that, that's only, I think, 15, 20 miles from the house. The Bridgewater Triangle.
Bridgewater Triangle.
There's all kinds of sightings and stuff happening there.
I'll have to look that up.
There's so much too that didn't make the film. So much that we couldn't tie into the story and the flow. And then we're hoping one day to be able to do a director's cut and just show, like evidence, things that happened that we couldn't add into the film. But they're pretty awesome. I mean, we experienced a lot in the house.
There was a lot. There's a lot going on.
It's funny because Ken and Corey kept calling it the Disneyland of paranormal. And that's what it feels like. The house is intense. It really is.
It sounds like it. Like you guys even mentioned, like in there about the King's War or King's Philip's War.
Yeah, King Philip's War. Yeah.
I even had to go look that up.
Corey brought that up, and we literally went to this case saying, let's not research anything. Other than we listened to a podcast from Andrea Perrin just on just about her experience at the house, and that was it. Like we
didn't have any time though. We got called, and it was we packed the car and left.
We literally jumped in the car and filmed everything, and that was really neat. I've never gone into a case not knowing, obviously about the Conjuring story and some of the stuff that happens there, but we didn't know everything at all. Like I hadn't watched any shows from there.
It was really tempting to add that in the film, the research and the background and how the movie just took off, everything pop culture. But at the same time, it's like we really wanted to experience that raw, like just no influence, no nothing. You've been over 500 locations. You always get like the story, the tour, the everything. You spend a long time in those locations by yourself, and this time you really went
deep.
Yes.
Into the well.
Yes. I was so surprised by that too. When I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, he's actually doing that.
It was one of those things where I'm claustrophobic, and I was like, you kind of scare yourself. Like I don't know. I get a kick out of scaring myself, pushing my own limits. I guess it probably comes from snowboarding or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I felt compelled to that well. Like she'll tell you, like I was obsessed with the downstairs well room. It was just so weird. I don't know what it was. It was the same kind of feeling of when we left the Conjuring house, that we felt like we had to go back. It was like, I just feel like we got to go back. I don't know what it is. You just feel like this connection. Definitely don't feel it anymore. Time's passed, and
that's one of the claims. Actually,
it was very interesting.
People become very attached.
Yeah.
To the property.
And
really weird.
We would watch like a live, and someone would be at the house, and then they'd be in the room that we stayed. And Vera's like, what are they doing in our bed? What are they doing in our room?
Like invasion of like your space. It was so weird. I'm like, that's my house. It's like about any other location. Yeah. It was really weird. Really,
but there's something to be said about staying in a location for a long period of time. And I really think that we did a good job in kind of guinea pigged ourselves to kind of see what that's like. Cause you know, I just the amount of exposure and the length of time, you know, and the experiences, it's just a whole different, a different game, I think, for us.
I really do feel for people that live in haunted houses. I really do. And the ones that don't know, the ones that stay and keep going, that they get so used to it, they think it's normal, although it's nothing normal. Like Miss Alice, I mean, she wants up her house for the house in between, but she refuses to stay there, and they continuously experience things there, and it's just fascinating. Like, it's like, seriously, like, I don't know. I tell you that the house messes with you.
Yeah.
With your mind. It really does. It has it's tricky.
So do you think, like, after a while, like, maybe the house just kind of becomes its own entity?
I don't know the house, something there. I don't know what it is, but it does. I think it does take a toll on people.
It feels intelligent. Feels like it feels like it's watching you and judging you and messing with you. It feels like it's like almost like, I don't know. I just, it's definitely something to it. There's something, it's just different than the places that I've been. And I can't put my finger on it.
I've never been.
I just don't know. Before. I don't know. It's got a weird side to it, you know, like a nice. It feels nice, but like, what does Rochelle say? Rochelle
she
says
it
great.
Really good. I mean, it's like a good, when you know somebody, when you meet someone and you're like, oh, I like you, you're nice, but there's something about you that I'm like, keep my distance because I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of like that's kind of how it feels. And it's weird because there was days and nights and nothing would happen. It's just nothing. Yeah. And in fact, we investigated a ton where nothing would happen. Nothing would get triggered. No responses, no EVPs. Sounds that were weird. Like we had, oh my gosh, like we had this whole session in the living room, what they call the seance room. And out of nowhere, we felt the whole house rumble.
Shake.
And it started with this huge, imagine somebody being underneath and just hitting the floor right underneath my feet, just boom. And everybody's just like, what was that? And
like I jumped and like took the camera.
We jumped because we're like, oh my gosh, like you felt it on your feet. And then the whole floor just starts to
wow.
And Corey Hines and in fact goes, is that an earthquake? Like it has to be an earthquake. It's like it feels too real. And then they looked it up, there's nothing. Then the dogs went crazy. They started just like howling and of course making everything more tense and more scary because you're like, what are they feeling? And it didn't show up on her. And then Rochelle had her digital recorder on, and then the next time when she reviewed, there was nothing, zero.
Cameras didn't catch the audio. Like it's so weird because we all heard it, but it didn't come up on the
nothing.
It didn't come up on the audio anywhere. We had multiple devices like GoPros, camera mics.
I don't understand.
It doesn't make sense.
And that part didn't make the film for that reason because
that
kind of see a jump. Like you just there's no noise. You just see
we didn't want to add anything to it. So
that kind of leads into a question I had for you guys. Obviously, when you're talking about some of those feelings you get, that must be very hard to capture cinematically as documentary filmmakers. And the fact that some things don't show up, which seem to be there, but your equipment, audio and visual equipment doesn't pick up. What are some of the other challenges of filming this movie or anything within that kind of paranormal realm and telling a story to capture these kind of moments?
Very good question.
One of those is actually,
very good question. So for Vera and I, we've really, our whole motto is to capture the experience. Because if you have a personal experience and it wasn't captured, it just doesn't work. Telling that on camera, doing a recreation, we're not, unless it's some major event that happened a while ago, we're not even gonna touch it. Like, and there was things that happened in the filming of Sleepless that were personal experiences, and it just didn't show up. It didn't show up on the film. and we couldn't use it. It would be
really hard to tell that story.
So
like you got touched in the basement.
Yeah, I got my arm touched, and I thought for sure it was like, I thought for sure you'd see my, I thought for sure you'd see some kind of movement in my sleeve. I had a long sleeve jacket on. I thought for sure, I'm like, okay, this is being documented. I'm like literally like play by play,
all cameras
on it, and it didn't show anything. Nothing. It showed no movement in the sleeve, and so like I just can't use it. I can't use it unless it's evidence back. Your personal experience is backed up with video. So what do we do for this? We've learned how to just be rolling all the time. I mean, we had 14 cameras always rolling with their DVR system, our DVR system, our production cameras, the GoPros. So you always have to be rolling. You have to have a camera in every room. We have 4K cameras now, and so we can zoom in on them, and we have the quality that we can capture a lot of stuff that way. And so we at least got the audio and the video from the DVR camera, and as long as we can get the other cameras up fast enough, we can use that, because we're using the one wide angle, and then we're running fast to grab all the other cameras to get them up, so we're able to kind of capture the whole moment as it happens.
Yeah, I can only imagine how much of a challenge it is to make anything in this realm, and how much and I didn't see any of it in either of your films, but how much pressure there must be on filmmakers and television show producers to say, well, nothing happened, so we'll kick a can or insert a sound effect or pretend something happened. So that pressure's got to be overwhelming, though, right? As somebody,
it's actually not, because we have the ability, because we're the filmmaker. We're in charge of the story. We're in charge of telling the story. We're in charge of the edit. We're in charge of the filming. We're in charge of everything. So when we go into these films, we're going in saying there could be nothing that happens here, and we have to be able to spin on a dime and go a different direction, and be able to say, hey, you know what? Like, this isn't about the house, but it's more about outside in the land, or it's more about maybe the struggle of the owners.
There's always a story.
There's always a story in there, and as long as you have the ability to be able to pivot, that's going to be okay for us. Now, TV and like some of these docuseries that have created their own formats and live and die by them, you have to stay within your format. You don't have the time, you don't have the the resources to be able to just go on a wild goose chase and keep the filming going for a couple more months. You just can't do that. So, I've been lucky enough that the shows that I've worked on, they're very credible, and, there's no funny business going on, but, there's so many shows out there, and you really have to be able to trust who you're watching. It's just a,
most people know. I mean,
it's
the
clearly
audience is smart.
too,
Sometimes
know
when it's just for pure entertainment and when it's for serious. I think they know.
Mm-hmm. You could tell when some of them are really, really scripted too, like some of the reality shows. It's just it's unfortunate.
I mean, that's it's interesting. Yeah, they're put together, like they haven't even like ever talked to each other, and they put people together, and then they're like, okay, like you're a team, Yeah. It's like, okay, well.
I'm remembering some of the challenges we had real quick. One of them, it was about 4:30 in the morning, maybe 5, and we're loading footage. We're exhausted. Everybody's brain or shoulder in bed, and we're not even filming. And then I don't know where we start hearing noises, footsteps, and voices, and we're just like, let me finish. I just want to go to bed. And then we just look at the GoPro and try to go capture it. Like, it will never stop. For this particular case, it never stopped.
It's so frustrating. Like, there was times where stuff would be happening. I'd be like, can you just wait till I have my camera up?
Yeah. Like, you're like, I need to put the battery fast enough. Hold on.
And you're doing a battery change.
Or we're doing an interview, And remember the interview?
Yeah.
They were doing an interview with Brian and Rochelle, and they're on the couch. It was daylight, and I don't know where Brian just looks back. And he's like, "Oh, I thought that was Jen." There was nobody. And then a few seconds later, his battery on the main camera starts draining. Like he was about 15 batteries.
I think it was like 12 to 15 batteries, just drain,
like every 2 minutes.
Drain.
They were charged. I mean, I think you might misplace one or two.
Yeah, maybe one or two are bad.
All of them?
Yeah, that was crazy.
And at first he wasn't nervous. He was like, oh, okay, whatever. I just keep changing, keep going, getting batteries. And then I started I felt like something was like in between him and I, because I was sitting down asking the questions. He was standing up with the camera, and then Brian showed in front of us. And then your body language changed. And then I just felt this like pressure, like something hovering, just kind of like big and just heavy. And then I felt it and I felt uncomfortable. But then it wasn't until I turned to my left and I see Kendall uncomfortable. And I was like, he does not get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Nothing makes this guy uncomfortable. He's not afraid. He goes, you saw him. He goes in the basement by himself. He doesn't care. And I was like, why is he nervous? And I started thinking, does he feeling what I'm feeling? And then I looked at it, and you just gave me the look, and I'm like, crap, he's feeling what I'm feeling. This is weird. And I'm just thinking, I just want to get my interview done. I was like, I don't know what to do. And then you kind of like freeze a little bit because you're thinking, okay, do we turn this into an investigation? Do we like go for it?
Yeah.
Just leave it alone? Do we ignore it? Like, what do we do? And it was daylight. We didn't have the right equipment. I think we did a quick video with you took your iPhone out and just kind of filmed a little bit to record what was happening. But then it just went away.
So we're always investigating. Like when you go and stay at the house and you do what we did, it's like the second you walk through that threshold of the door into the house, you move your bags in, you're in investigation until you leave. Like that's kind of like the mindset that we went in. And
we would ask, I remember we would try to communicate a lot, and there were something that is pretty standoffish. You wouldn't really answer back a whole lot. It was very curious. It felt very curious. It felt very just kind of like, what are you doing?
Yeah. So they kind of had to check you out first before.
Yeah.
Well, that went 0 to 60
it
quick.
It did.
Like these doors, I don't want to give away too much,
No,
but the slamming, and then it's like this
You
door
asked
and
me
then
what was
that
the
door.
scariest night. That was the scariest night for me.
It was crazy. I mean, it got crazy in there. It was like, and then it's calling her name out and stuff in the spirit box.
First of all, what do you think about the spirit box?
I like it, but I don't like all of the extra noise. So it's hard to decipher through. And I've seen some investigators that have found a way to quiet it. So, but I'm still kind of out on it. I find it very interesting though, when they do answer yes or no questions, especially you do have footage of what his name's John Huntington. And he had that experience. That's fascinating.
That's really weird. What about you, Dean?
Pretty open.
I'm not an investigator the way Jen is, and funnily enough, I'm not skeptical in the sense that I think there's something out. I do think there's something there. I'm skeptical too. I think people can have a type of a bias to what they hear and want to interpret it the way that they want to hear it. So a lot of things that I see on paranormal shows, the ones I think are legitimate, or the movies like yours, which I do think are legitimate, I still tend to wonder if there's an interpretive bias on some of the things that happen. But I was actually about to ask you guys a very similar question. So as both documentarians and investigators, what are the techniques and the technologies that you find particularly useful at the moment? And do you see any trends going forward in this field? Do you see changes in the way that people are carrying out investigations?
You're asking a lot of great questions.
Yeah, great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, camera technology is definitely number one on my list. I try to stay up on the latest low light cameras. I think that's a good rule of thumb for people that are into investigation. If you're documenting your experience and you're filming in the dark, you want something that's very low light sensitive. So For me, I use the Blackmagic, and it's got like the dual ISO that is clean, so it does a good job. And then I use fast lenses. So for the documenting part, I feel like we got a pretty good setup. But then there's the paranormal side of things, and I think for us, we're big on using any kind of camera that we can, the DVR cameras that can capture are rolling all the time. I think that's very, very important.
Mostly for objects, anything physical,
anything moving,
doors,
yeah.
anything, because in reality, I mean, for anyone to capture a ghost on a DVR camera, I mean, that is
it's very rare.
So rare.
But we've been experimenting with a camera that I learned about on Ghost Hunters from Brandon Alvis. And it's the EMCCD camera, and we used it in the Sleepless Unrest.
Which I begged him to buy me for my birthday last year. Yeah. And he was so nice, and he got it for me.
I found these. They're hard to find. Like, the camera is very, very hard to find. And I found one from actually Raytheon, the government, their government issue. And so yeah, we got those teched out, and we started using them. And we're seeing some pretty neat results with the cameras.
Yeah.
And, we've done a lot of tests on, like, we got 2, so we can have a control, we have 2, so we can set those up and see if they're, if they're both registering the same thing at the same time. And so we're getting some really neat stuff with these photon events. Showing up in the footage, and I think there's more to these light anomalies happening in these active locations.
We don't know what it is. We don't know yet. We can tell you, oh yeah, it is so and so. No.
Yeah.
We're documenting it, and it's interactive. It's definitely,
which is interesting.
It's definitely responding to what we're saying, which is very interesting. And I mean, it's there, so we're capturing it. I think that's very important. You have to capture what you're seeing and what you're interacting with, or else you're never gonna. It's just a ghost story, that you tell. I think, more people that bring good, credible footage, with good quality cameras, good angles. I think that's very important, and that's going to help science get involved. That's going to help, more people get interested in this and want to put more resources into this. I think that's a big thing. I feel like, science might not be on board, because how are you going to get funding for your science experiment idea when you're, this is just so taboo, or, it's just it's still not there yet. So I feel like the more.
But to our surprise, there are some scientists out there that are interested. They're starting to come around, and that's really fun. That's really it gives you hope. And when I've talked to a few, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so what we need. This is just what we need right now.
So yeah, bringing footage, like bringing video, good, credible, good documented evidence to.
I'm hoping for something that will produce good audio.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot that I can say, oh my gosh, I'm in love with that or not. Like I was saying, the spirit box, I don't know yet if it's really reliable or not. I witnessed that to do nothing, to give nothing to other than just radio signals.
Yeah.
And I've noticed groups of people listening to it, and everybody's listening a different word.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, bye. Other people saying like, face. It was Maria, like everybody's just listening to different things, and you're like, oh my god, and that can go on for hours. You're like, this is not working. But then you hear the occasional word that is so clear that everybody hears, that pertains to what's happening at the moment, and that's when I'm like, what's going on? It's a coincidence.
There's a moment in your film that captures that very well, when the gentleman's out looking for going towards the graveyard, and he asks what direction to go, and it says very clearly left, like it says left, and that's a very specific question with a very specific answer. And And
that was really weird.
Yeah, John was directed to that graveyard by the spirit box. I mean,
he has
he's got an interesting
connection with that, and I don't know what to make out of that.
Yeah,
but we did notice that sometimes he will be very active with him, and other times if he was really tired, I remember nothing would happen. It was really strange. That will be worth some research. Maybe. It was interesting. I don't know. I mean, there's a part that they didn't make the film where Kendall was just randomly. We were just filming. Nobody was talking. You weren't talking. You were just filming, and then he said, "Kendall." Everybody clearly heard Kendall, and then later on he said, "Well," and then he said, "Well." So it's just 3 words, but then we're like, well, then you connect them, and then everybody started teasing him. Oh, he wants you back in the well. He wants you back. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make out of that. So, yeah, but anyway, back to your question. Yes, something with audio will be amazing. Like, I don't know. Do you feel that anything will be trending in the future?
I think, I have a prediction for high speed, low light cameras. I think that, I think we need to be able to shoot 1 million frames a second in super, super low light. I think we need to be able to see maybe on the ultraviolet spectrum, IR spectrum, or some just very, very low light, super high speed. And I think once we start doing that, we're going to start seeing some stuff that maybe is vibrating faster than our eyes can see. I think maybe some of this stuff is vibrating in a certain frequency that cameras can't really see, that you only have so many, your camera can only see so fast. And I feel like a lot of this stuff might be vibrating below the spectrum or above the spectrum that your cameras can see. So I think by slowing things down, you'll be able to, along with UFO activity, I think you'll be able to point those cameras at the sky and maybe see that there might be more out there that we're not seeing with our human eye.
Are there techniques like the Estes method, for example, which you guys are interested in playing with? Or
I tried it a couple times. I don't like it.
We tried it once. I wasn't.
Yeah.
It freaks you out.
I'm willing to look, I don't want to shoot anything down because there is no rules to this. There is I'll take a look at it. We'll try it. We'll, give
somebody brought it to us.
We'll give it its best, best shot. Maybe there's something there. Maybe this over here might go with this over here later and it creates this one thing. You just never know. The Estes method. I don't know. I didn't like it. It kind of made my brain
Well, you didn't like doing it yourself. But when I was on the other side of the experiment, somebody else was over there covered and deprived, and then I started saying the words, and I was far away enough to hear those words were actually answers to what we were talking about. So that's when it was a little strange.
Yeah, we were outside. There was one time we were outside.
You were outside.
Yeah. We're on walkies.
This is
we're
something else,
it.
a different case.
Different case. We tried it where Vera was in the house. I was outside on the walkie, so there's no audio contamination whatsoever, and we were we're going back and forth, and she was picking up on some stuff. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
I think why the Estes method interests me theoretically is that it might be, and this might be where science could become interested, the way that it used to be, and I think it still is, I haven't followed the science, but the way people like Ryan used to do psi experiments, like the idea of some type of ESP or non-verbal, non-physical communication between people. Because I often wonder how much of this, and this is something I'd love you to give me your feedback or your input on, how much of the paranormal might have to do with ourselves or us projecting something or interacting with our environment. And Estes method to me suggests that it could have as much to do with people psychically communicating as with talking to spirits of the dead, for example.
For sure.
That's a very good point, because we've talked about
Yeah,
that.
we have. Yeah, there's something to it. I think there's people that they come into the house and the house is more active when they're around.
Or things that they want to happen actually happen.
What
are the chances?
Yeah.
There's something to it, and it might be as simple as like the what is it, the mindset of manifestation. Like you think about something in your life that you want to happen, and you focus on that, and then it becomes a reality. I mean, maybe our subconscious is wanting the door to open so bad that it actually does. It might take a few, but it eventually does. There could be something to that. I mean, we are focused as when we're going in as filmmakers and investigators, we want that ball to move. We're trying to document that. All of us are collectively thinking about that. Maybe there's something in that power. Maybe something's picking up on that from the other side. That's like, oh, you want the ball moved? Hang on, I'll help you out. I don't know. Like it could be that. I mean, that's a very good. I think that's a very good hypothesis about paranormal activity. I think there's something there, especially poltergeist. I mean, if you think about it, poltergeist is kind of that. So.
Yeah, I'd like to see more focus of whether science will ever get involved or not. It's another question. At least as a broader paradigm level. Certainly, there were people like Thomas Ryan and even Jung suggested the idea that there was an exteriorization sometimes of our unconscious or subconscious to the exterior world. But to me, that should be the natural entry point for science to look at this. But whether they ever will or not, I'm not so sure. Anyway, I've hogged a lot of this, Jen. I know you had a bunch of questions for the Whelptons as well.
We kind of went through all of it.
Oh my goodness. Really?
I mean, the only thing that I could think of is we were talking about like the property and all the crazy activity. I do know of a place down the Ozarks, and I think it's called Crystal Camp Mine or something like that. They have the same thing, but the only thing that's different is that it's a crystal mine. So it's nothing, the ground is nothing but quartz. So people go there with buckets and they get to dig as much as they want, but there's activity. Like they've caught levitation of rocks. Like
really?
Where is it?
Go up. It's in Arkansas. I can't think of the name of it right now, but I know it's like Camp Crystal Mine or something like that.
Okay.
They have the wood knocks and the lights.
Yeah.
And orbs. They call it orbs. They do have some things on a YouTube channel, but I saw them at a paranormal convention here in Kansas City. So they have the same kind of activity. That's
really interesting because in our research of limestone from the House in Between, we did a lot of research on limestone, and I found that quartz crystals can hold data. They're able to hold information within quartz crystal. So just that in itself, you kind of start thinking outside the box, futuristically. Maybe there's these huge embedded, these rocks that are just holding tons of information or energy, or they're expelling. There's something about crystal. I really do feel that. I think that. Some of these hotspots are holding limestone or crystal, or they tend to see lights, or have this paranormal activity. I think there's something to the land, like you were saying, and crystal might be a catalyst. Or
I would love to go there.
That sounds interesting.
Oh yeah, I know. I still want to go there.
There's another.
I'll have to send you the link so that way you can see where it's at.
Yeah.
Now, the Conjuring house went up for sale again recently. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no inside track story there you can share with us, or there's no.
No. They. I mean, exactly what they said. They're just ready to sell. So I mean, we're like, oh, we really hope that it goes to, someone like Corey and Jen, and I know they want that too. So they'll do what's best for the house. you know.
Oh, that's good. Hopefully you guys can get back there, whoever buys it, if you're going to do more investigations in the woods. Do you plan to do more work at the house if you can, or?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean,
we're going to be on a live on Halloween.
Yeah, we're going to
fun.
we'll be on there virtually
and
Halloween.
speak with the parent family.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Yes.
we'll be back there virtually for Halloween, and then we might
be back.
We might be back with Brian and Rochelle. I think
November.
they got like an event there, so we might try to zip on down. We're working on a couple films right now, so we're
can you share any of that with us?
In the
Any
cave.
hints?
I can't wait.
I know,
to
we can't
share.
wait.
I can't particularly tonight. There's so much I want to share, and
I think you guys would. Yeah, you're gonna like it. We're just talking about some stuff that I think that they'll
related to
that.
Oh, I can't wait to have you guys back
on.
Tell our audience, though, how they can watch the Sleepless Unrest and keep up with whatever you guys are doing.
Yeah, the Sleepless Unrest. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it on Google Play, Vimeo, YouTube. This is all VOD, video on demand. You can find it on, you can get a DVD at Amazon. And go to our website, though. The easiest way to watch it is go to our website, and that's the sleeplessunrest.com. And you can find everywhere you can watch it. And we also have some merch up there. And it's fun. It's a fun movie. Definitely leave a review, comment. Like we listen to our fans and our critics, and it just makes our filmmaking that much better. So definitely give us your input after you watch the film, and we just love hearing from people.
Yeah, I encourage everybody who hasn't seen it yet to watch it. By the way, I love that opening sequence when Vera is like, checking the computer and things. And I won't spoil it, but it was just like you really were in for a ride with that opening sequence. It was awesome.
It was fun to film.
I really enjoyed it. But listen, let's have you guys back on whenever, especially when you've got another project out, because you were both a blast to talk to.
Absolutely, yes.
We'd love to.
Excellent. Yeah. Until we see you next, too. Keep it weird.
Oh, we will. Yeah. I love your poster in the back, by the way.
Oh, yes. My head's in the way. Yes.
Yeah.
You want to.
Oh.
All right. Keep it weird.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then, stay safe and keep it weird.